Hey guys, sorry I have not basically done a video all week. It's just been a crazy week. Like every time I wanted to do videos, something came up. So today, I was gonna review Immaculate, but after seeing it, I don't think I'm gonna do a whole video on it. It was good. I just don't think it's worth doing a whole video on. So I guess really quick before we get into Ghostbusters, um, Immaculate was interesting. It's very, I guess, if you want to call it art house, but it was well made. Sydney Sweeney, I thought was a good actress in it. Like I thought she really pulled off being a nun. Very creepy. Basically, the premise is she gets pregnant out of nowhere. It's supposed to be like a regular baby. Everyone thinks it's like this God's baby, but it turns out it's Antichrist, and the ending is pretty fucked up. Like she gives birth and basically kills the baby. You don't see it. She grabs a rock and you basically see her smash it on the screen. You don't see what happens, but you basically know what happens. It's a pretty fucked up ending, I will admit. It's very fucked up ending. I wasn't expecting that, but good movie. It's not one of those I'm definitely gonna watch again, like go out of my way to watch again, but it was decent. So 7 out of 10. I just didn't feel like it warranted a video. But this one did though. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, the latest Ghostbusters movie. I wanted to be really hyped about this, but then the trailers came out, and I'll be honest, something about the trailers just did not hit right. I'm not saying they were bad, but it was just like I'm not too sure about this, so I don't know if I could justify going to the theater just to see that, like pay it money. So I just decided I'm gonna go sell the seats first, and then if it's good, I'll go pay for it later. And I'm happy I made that decision because, man, this wasn't good. This isn't like Shitbusters 2016 bad, but this isn't good. I think fundamentally, a couple of issues. One, I think there was too much shit going on. There was like too many different subplots. Like Phoebe had a subplot. The dude from Stranger Things, I'll just say, had a subplot. Like his thing was he wanted to drive the Ecto, and they wouldn't let him until the end. Um, Paul Rudd's character Gary, I think is his name. His arc was basically he's trying to be like a stepdad, and like it was so much going on. Like Phoebe has this subplot with this ghost named Melody, who I don't like the idea of a Ghostbuster talking to a ghost like that. That's too out there for me. Like, and I think this one was okay. Going into nine other problems, it was a nostalgia bait. Like it's just nostalgia for the sake of nostalgia. Like there was no real reason Walter Peck had to be in this movie, and it didn't work for me either because he's literally the same character from the first one. He just wants to destroy the ghost. It doesn't make sense. You're telling me 40 years later he would still be the same fucking character? You're like, okay, fine. You want to have the one gag where he's somewhat the same, but there should have been a moment where he's like, okay, these guys are actually good. And I guess it kind of happened towards the end of the movie, but it was like cringe. Is like you basically just brought it back just to be the same fucking character 40 years later. It doesn't make any sense. There was no point of Vinkman or honestly Winston either. You didn't need either of those characters. The only original Ghostbuster that I at least felt like was part of the story was Ray. Because, and also I do like Dan Aykroyd. It seemed like he was actually trying. But I'm sorry, Bill Murray, Vinkman was phoning it in. I'm not going to say Winston was, but definitely Vinkman was phoning it in. Like, for sure, he was phoning it in like a motherfucker. He wasn't into it. He's barely in the movie. You also have this subplot with this fire master, which is Kamal's character. Why was he there? It was just there. He was just there just so he can have this fire master subplot, so he could act like he was part of the crew. He felt like a tag along to me. He didn't need to be there. I felt like his shit was very unfunny. This movie in general was not funny to me. At one point, because I'll admit I wasn't watching this in theater, it just became background noise to me. That's my new way now. Of another way for me to tell when a movie's bad is if it just becomes background noise and I'm not really paying attention anymore. And that's what I feel like this movie became after a while. Like there were some cool effects, but the main villain, Garaka, I think is his name, the dude with the horns, he doesn't even feel like a Ghostbusters villain. He feels like he should be in some medieval fantasy movie. Like, even in the movie, Kamal makes a joke like, you should be in Narnia. I'm like, that's what he should be. He shouldn't be in a Ghostbusters movie. The villain just seemed like the long claws, the big horns. He feels like he should be like some villain in like some fantasy game or a movie. Not in like Ghostbusters. He just felt too out there for me. And the title is kind of bullshit because he doesn't even show up until really the end. The whole ice stuff doesn't even start till like the last sequence of the movie, basically. So, yeah. I get some people liked it. You know, there could be some good parts, but it didn't do it for me. I really wanted to like it, but I just was not into it at all. Phoebe's whole plot basically is that she's right, but people are pretty much stopping her from being right, and then she's proven right. That's her character arc in this movie. You know, it's not an arc, and it sucks because I like Phoebe as a character, but like her arc in this literally is the modern. I guess I'm gonna say it, Mary Sue kind of arc where people say she knows she's right or she's good, but people stop her from being right or being good. So then she has to prove them wrong by being right or good, and then she's proven right by the end. Like, it was even the final sequence where she realizes that the thing that can hurt Garaka, I'm just gonna call him that, is brass. So she makes a brass infused proton pack. But the problem is she makes one. So she's like the only one who ends up using it. It makes no sense. You're telling me you wouldn't, why not make one for the entire team? It's so stupid. It's just like a lot of shit happening, man. And I just think they should have just kept this simple. It's Ghostbusters. Even Ghostbusters 2, even though they added shit, was at least it kept it simple somewhat. This, I just felt like there was too much going on. Like, it was just, I don't know, man. Wasn't feeling it. I'm not gonna say I hated it, but it wasn't good either. And I definitely do not plan watching this again. I honestly think with the Ghostbusters movies, I honestly might only do the first two. And maybe Afterlife if I'm in the mood, but largely just the first two. Like, and I agree. I was watching FNT and I think they said this. It should honestly, Ghostbusters should just end as an IP. And I'm in the camp too. Like, after this movie, I don't really think there's more. Where can you go with Ghostbusters? I think it's one of those IPs. I just don't really think you needed to ever continue it. I think I was fine with Afterlife, but that should have probably been it. Like, you have a solid trilogy right there if you want to end it with Afterlife, but they decided to continue, and if this does okay, I can see them doing another one. I hope they don't. The Ghostbusters just needs to end, and I think this movie kind of solidifies why it should. Because I just don't think there's any more story to tell. And what sucks is I like the idea of a family of Ghostbusters, but I just felt like they never really took the chance with it. So out of 10, I give this a 4.5. Like, and I'm only giving it the half point because some of the decent effects. But yeah. Later tonight, I'm gonna review the movie I was supposed to review on Thursday, Freaky, which I did watch. So, Freaky sucked. That's another one that's another just Blumhouse good concept that they just wasted in a movie. So I'll be talking about that probably later tonight, if not tomorrow. But I'm gonna try to do it tonight, and then I'll figure out what I'll do tomorrow. But yeah. Anyway, guys, let's start it on Ghostbusters. Like, maybe toward after the review section, I'll maybe give like, I guess you want to call it like a quick fixing, where I give just some ideas of how maybe you could have made this movie work. What sucks is, I'll admit, there's some good ideas. I've seen a little bit of the Ghostbusters cartoon, like a couple episodes, and it's like, I get that's where they're trying to go, but I just don't think they executed it well. Movie stars usually you start in like, I think 1904, I think it was. at the fire station where the Ghostbusters base is, basically. And we see frozen people, and they find the orb. Which, say it, it's kind of a MacGuffin, where they kind of explain it, but it is just basically a MacGuffin. Then we jump ahead. We see the Ghostbusters trying to capture this ghost, snake ghost thing. And they end up capturing it, but they cause a lot of damage. And this is where Walter Peck, he shows up like, I think 3 times. He shows up this scene, the scene later where basically they take their stuff away, and then the very end. Don't get me wrong. I like Walter Peck. I like that actor. I love how he's so good at playing assholes. He's also in Die Hard. He's the asshole news reporter in Die Hard 1. He's also in 2, actually. But yeah, he's like usually the asshole character. And he plays a good asshole, but I don't think he was needed in this movie, man. Honestly, the scene in the trailer is like the only real scene you I'll admit, of the 3 scenes you see him, this is probably the one scene I kind of liked him, but he should have only appeared once, the more I think about it. He didn't need to be in this movie at all, but if you're going to have him, just have him once. It was just, because the fact that he basically is just the same character, and he just wants to, you really tell me he had this vendetta for goddamn 40 years? And it really doesn't make any sense, because he doesn't even come back in, the second one. Which, I guess, probably partially because he was doing Die Hard. That's probably why he didn't come back for 2, I would assume, because he was doing Die Hard at the time. Because Die Hard was 88 and Ghostbusters 2 was 89, but they were probably filming around the time. But I didn't need him here, man. It just felt like, once again, just nostalgia. I didn't even mention, you get the librarian from the first movie too. You didn't need that. I didn't need to see that. Slimer's fine. If you want to have him appear, he's going to always randomly appear. Slimer's never been a main ghost, so it's okay to have him just pop up from time, because even the first movie, he kind of just pops up. He's not like the main ghost. He's almost like, I guess in a way, kind of the mascot, but he's not like a main ghost villain, so it's okay if you want to have him pop up. I was okay with that. I didn't need the librarian. Or even the librarian ghost appears again. Cool, I actually thought the librarian ghost looked really good. Looked really good, even though I was watching on a cam version. But it looked really good, I could still tell. But I didn't need the librarian there. That was just, nostalgia, guys. Remember the librarian? Remember Janine? Who comes back later, but she doesn't really have any scene of importance. They just brought her back just so, because there's a scene later. Oh, let's put her in a Ghostbusters outfit. So they could say we put her in a Ghostbusters outfit. But she really didn't need to be in the movie. That's what I mean. When your nostalgic cameos or whatever show up and they don't actually add to the plot, you could take them out and the movie plays out the same. That to me is nostalgia bait. That's the member berries, the South Park thing. Remember this? That's what, to me, that is what member berries are. If you're just bringing people, as the problems I had, I know it's a weird example because I didn't like the movie, but Jurassic World Dominion brought back the 3 legacy characters. At least they were part of the story. So I won't call that member berries, but this was. I'm sorry. This was straight up member berries. Walter didn't really need to be in the movie, or at least you could have just had one scene. At least if you just had that one scene in the beginning, then maybe it wouldn't have felt like that. But then you had him just up here just so we could have him in the movie. Same with Janine. So, after, and they also, Peck mentions that Phoebe's too young because she's 15 still. I felt like she would have been older because I thought she was 15 in the last movie. Why isn't she 18 now? I don't know how old the actual actress is, but I guess maybe the actual actress is 15. I don't know. I could be wrong. I don't have something to look at right now to check it out, but whatever. So she basically, her mom benches her essentially till she's an adult. And Paul, and his arc literally is just, he has to try to be the stepdad. And it's so sad because I actually think Paul Rudd was one of the better parts of Afterlife. And it's why not just have him in this movie? Did they just not have him? Because I guess, because Ant-Man 3 was, I guess, the same year, came out earlier this year, or last year. So I'm wondering if that's partially why. Because you got to remember, this movie technically was supposed to come out last year. So maybe he was doing them around the same time, and maybe he just wasn't on set as much, and maybe that's why he wasn't in the story more, because it just felt like in this one he just wanted to be a stepdad, and that's it. That's fucking it. And the kid from Stranger Things, he just wanted to drive the Ecto one. That's his whole arc, the whole movie. He doesn't actually serve a purpose. That's the problem. Like, what sucks is I like the idea of a Ghostbusters family. You have the legacy characters there to kind of coach, but these, you want to have the family. Okay, cool, but you don't actually do anything with a family of any actual importance. You could have explored some arc between the son and the mom. Like something other than, oh, I just want to drive the Ecto one and mom won't let me. It's so fucking bad, dude. It is so weak. Like Ghostbusters 1, I think that's what truly made it great, was that it wasn't just like it was funny, but it wasn't just funny. It actually had horror moments. Okay, I know 2 goes a bit more comedic, but 2 still felt like it had that good funny though, and it had good characters. And I just don't think this one does. Afterlife kinda did, but then it's like I just feel like it threw that all out in this one. I just think they really did. They threw it all fucking out. I don't know, man. I think it was at this point it kind of did just become fucking white noise to me. And that's not a good sign for your movie or TV show or whatever I'm watching. If your shit just becomes white noise and it's just like playing, but I'm not really paying attention, then that's not a good movie. And yeah, you could say, oh, you're supposed to be singing at the theater. Fucking cares. I can still give thoughts, because relative, I can still hear the movie, still I get audio, and I'm gonna say it. Cam versions these days are good enough. Like, besides some of the effects, you could watch this at home, and it's not like the only exception I'm making is Godzilla X Kong, because some of the effects in those movies I do feel like you gotta see on a bigger screen, especially Godzilla just in general. So that's the only reason I'm making the exception and paying for it, even though I know it's gonna be trash. This, I don't feel like you need to. Some of the ghosts, like, I'll admit, like when they were shooting the proton packs, like the stream looked cool, and the scenes when the villain would freeze it, that looked cool too. Like when he would this is a little bit later in the movie, but like when they would shoot the proton packs and the Garaka would freeze it, that was cool. So like the effects were cool, but to me, it's not hard to make effects look good in 2024. So that. It's almost not a positive just because of that. Like, you don't have the character work here. And I'm so frustrated about that. Because I think this is something I've noticed later, I'll admit, more recently. But just with movies, if your movie has a good concept, but you don't actually do anything with it, that's a new frustrating thing for me. Because it's like, you have a good idea here, but you don't actually do anything with it. I like the idea of a Ghostbusters family. I do. I think if you make that fucking work, do something more with the mom, besides her just kind of looking on her phone and she just was there. A lot of the characters are just fucking there. Like, Phoebe was like the only one that someone actually had a story. And, okay, so this is where, I guess, she meets this ghost named Melody, who I guess she died in a house fire because she burned it down by accident with matches. And they become friends. And this is where a lot of people are saying it's like queer coded. I'll admit you don't notice it initially, but definitely there's a scene later where Phoebe becomes a ghost and she like walks up to Melody, and the walk up looks like a kiss. I'll admit, straight up. And here's the thing. Let's say if she had been a dude ghost and they did the same, I would have hated it. I hate the idea of a Ghostbuster becoming friends with a ghost. That's stupid. That's like, this isn't Ghostbusters anymore. Like, what are we doing? Like now it's like a Disney movie. That's what it was. It felt like a Disney movie plot. Like, if let's say it had been a dude ghost, I would have had the same issue. Because it's a ghost, that's like a Disney fucking movie plot where main character starts becoming friends or falls in love with a ghost. Like, yeah, there's a thing called Casper, but I know that's not Disney, but it's the same thing. I don't like the idea of a Casper thing being in fucking Ghostbusters. Sorry. The whole point of Ghostbusters is like bust ghosts. They don't become friends with one. And if you're gonna do that, the only one I'd maybe make an exception is like Slimer. And that's because he's an established ghost. This is just some random fucking ghost we never even heard of. and you're not that interested in her fucking thing. And they didn't have chemistry either. So them becoming, I won't really go into the lesbian coded shit anymore. I'll just act like they're just friends. And you don't buy their friendship though. Like they don't feel like friends at all. Because the friends in movies, there should be like a bit of a, when you talk with your friends before, and any person has talked with their friends before, y'all have this kind of chemistry back and forth. There's like a cohesion. Y'all feel like you're buds. Y'all have known each other for a long time. So there should be like this banter where it's natural. You don't get that here. Even if when you just meet someone, but usually there's some people I've become friends with that moment, and then it's like we've known each other. My best friend, when we first met, we're basically like that. When we basically first met, we had that chemistry immediately. When you don't have that, it just feels awkward, and that's what this scene was. Every scene was with Phoebe, and I think Melody was the ghost. Ooh, I guess Melody's ghost effect looked alright, but you don't actually care about their friendship because you don't buy it. You know? And this is where Ray's introduced, and I thought he had some funny moments when he was talking with podcast. They even name drop like Twitch, which I thought that was kind of funny. And he's having podcasts help him do like a stream and like and subscribe. Like that shit was funny, you know? Like I felt like at least Ray of the original team. I'm gonna say that again. I said this earlier, but yeah, like at least he felt like like he was there in the plot and he wasn't just in the background or a cameo, whereas the others do. Because Ernie is funding the Ghostbusters. That's how they're doing a lot of their shit. He's funding it. Which, okay, that's cool. And I love Ernie Hudson. I love Winston. He's probably one of my favorite members of the group because he's the everyman. He's just a regular dude of the team, not a scientist. And I don't know, man. I didn't feel, I'm going to say it. This is something I've just thought of now. I wasn't really thinking about it when I was watching it. But the main Ghostbusters didn't really have chemistry in this one. Not really. Like I think towards the end, like the last bit, they kind of did, but like there's a scene where Ray and Winston talk, and it's like Winston basically telling Ray, "You got to take a break, bro," and I didn't feel it, man. I didn't feel the chemistry. It's not as bad as like Leia and Han from Episode 7 because that was what the fuck, but these guys like it's crazy because Afterlife was only, I guess maybe 5 years ago now, but it was 5 years ago. That doesn't feel that long ago. They had chemistry in that movie. Granted, they were only in the last bit, but they at least had chemistry. So it's weird that it didn't carry over. Yeah. So this is where Camille comes in. He has the orb, and basically the villain wants it. I'm going to say it. The other problem I've had with Garaka, he's mentioned a little bit, but he doesn't have an actual presence in the movie. Like Gozer in the first one. Yeah, he's not in the first movie a lot. You don't actually see his true form until the last act. But Zool, the dogs, you feel Gozer's presence almost throughout the film, even though he's not in it a lot. Even the villain from the second one, I felt like had more presence. You don't really feel Garaka's presence in the movie, besides Melody mentioning him a few times in it. Like, you don't really see him until the end. And the only hint is you saw a bunch of people covered in ice in the beginning. Yeah, this movie, there's too much going on, man. I think if you had streamlined the plot more, I would rewrite it. You know what? Have fucking Gary be a big Ghostbusters fan, and that's probably, it'd make more sense. And he wants to, have his arc be, he wants to make them proud. But maybe he fucks up a little bit before they can, they eventually make him proud. I think if you do something like that, that'll work better. Try to get that chemistry back. I know I said I'd do this later, but fuck it, we'll do it now. Get more chemistry between the classic Ghostbusters. Have them part of the story more. Don't do none of the cameos. You didn't need Janine in this movie. Or if you're going to have her maybe come in the end. But I don't know. I don't inherently have a problem with her being in the Ghostbusters suit, but I don't. There's nothing wrong with being a receptionist, man. There's nothing wrong with that. Our secretary, she was a part of the team. Just because she's not doing the. It's this weird obsession now. This idea that women, unless they're doing like fighting, women can't be valuable in other places. This is weird shit now. That's why you notice the only strong women are considered strong today have to be warriors or they have to fight in some way, which is stupid. Because I know Batgirl's a fire character, but one of my favorite versions of Batgirl was when she was Oracle, when she had to use more of her brain, use her smart. She wasn't just physical all the time. There's nothing wrong with characters being smart, you know, using their smarts, you know. Phoebe in the first one, she wasn't like, granted, it's Ghostbusters, but she wasn't like some fighty character. Her thing is she was a scientist like her father or grandfather, Egon. You know, like there's nothing wrong with that. But no, we have to. When they didn't get kind of because they felt like, oh, we got to make her like an actual ghost. Which I personally, I'll say again, I don't really have a problem with. But it does just feel like you just brought her in the movie just to do that scene later. She doesn't. She has a couple lines before that, but they don't have any value to me to where it adds to the story. So, but anyway, so it turns out the only thing that can stop Garaka is the Fire Master, which this just feels like, now this doesn't feel like Ghostbusters anymore. This feels like some medieval fantasy. And it turns out that Camille's character, I'll be honest, I don't remember his name. He owns like this store. He owns like this weird store, and they try to make him funny, but he's just weird, man. Everything I've seen him in, I just don't like him, and I think he tries too hard to be funny, and I don't know if it's his fault or if that's the studio's fault or both even, where they just keep trying to make him like do this forced humor, and it just comes off as annoying and not funny. There's even a way you can be annoying and still funny. Like, there's a way to do it, you know? Like, there's characters and stuff where they could technically be annoying, but they're still funny, you know? But they don't do... Like, Gina, perfect example. I'm rewatching Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Gina from that show basically is that... In real life, yeah, she's an annoying character, but she's funny. That's the difference. So you could be annoying and still be funny. It just... With Camille, it just comes off... Everything I've seen him in, it's so try-hard... But I don't know if the tryhard is from him or is from the fucking studio. Yeah, man. Or the director, whoever directed this movie. It's just... Because he's not working for me. Anything I've seen him in, it just does not work for me as an actor. Let me see if it's still filming. Yeah, like, I just don't think he works for me, man. And in this, same deal. Like, his whole thing is he has to... Basically... There's a part of the movie, I guess I'll just jump ahead of that, because there's really nothing that really happens besides Melody's and Phoebe's connection, really, until there's a point where, oh, yeah, I'm just going to jump from there. Melody convinces Phoebe to take her to, like, some hideout, because there's a scene earlier where Phoebe and Podcast see Melody, and Podcast tries to take her down, but Phoebe basically intentionally lets her get away, essentially. They meet. This is where she becomes a ghost. She goes in ghost form, and it turns out, she says a few, Phoebe, I'll just say it, Melody fucks her over, and Garaka's released, basically, and, luckily the mom and Paul, and Gary are basically there to save her. And this is where they go to jail. There's a scene with the lion, too, earlier in the film, which was cool. I thought that was cool. Like, the effect when the lion statue comes alive. That looked cool. But, so, this is where Paul tells Phoebe off, which I'll be honest, it was deserved. But they definitely try to make it look like Paul's the dick, obviously. Even though I would argue it was deserved, but... Yeah, it's just, that's all Phoebe's arc is in this movie. Just, I'm right, and you're not going to let me be right. It's so fucking dumb. That's such bad writing. That's not an arc, even. I don't even know what to fucking call that. Like, that's, and I was going to say an attempt at an arc, but that's not even, because at least an attempt There's sometimes there can be an effort in an attempt. There was none of that here. This was just bad. This is just bad storytelling. And fundamentally, I just don't like this movie. I just there's no heart, no heart in the family, no heart in really the classic characters. There's a scene between Vinkman and Camille where he tries to trigger him with like the electroshock therapy, if you remember from the first movie. Which I'll admit that was kind of funny. That was like probably the only scene where I felt like Vinkman was being Vinkman. But everything else, no. It really felt like Bill Murray was phoning it in. I felt like Bill Murray was trying more in Zombieland than he was in this movie. Just yeah. It his heart, I don't know if his just heart wasn't in it, or I don't know what it was. Or he just was just like, I didn't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. I don't know what it is. It just, but he was not there for me. At least Ernie Hudson, I felt like was still trying. Granted, of the three, I really do feel like Ray was the only one. Dan Aykroyd, because at least Ray is written into the story. Whereas I don't feel like Vinkman, Ernie, I guess, Winston is kind of written because he's the one funding the Ghostbusters. But so there's a scene, Phoebe causes damage to a lion because the lion comes alive, but because of that public property, they get basically their photon packs taken away, and that's basically when. Okay, I think I got the order wrong. That's when this scene happens with Phoebe getting turned into a ghost after. And then that's when Garaka comes back, puts his horns back. And I'll admit he looks cool, but he doesn't look like a Ghostbusters villain. He looks too like he should be in like a different fucking film, man. He doesn't fit Ghostbusters. I will admit, I do like that this movie's back in New York, because I honestly think the last one should have probably been in New York, to be fucking honest. But I do like that, but they don't really make use of it fully. The like I said, the scene where they go to the library, you just see the librarian. The librarian goes to school, but aside from that, the librarian wasn't needed. You could have had someone else be the new librarian, and it would not have played out any different. And all of it, the scene where Garaka starts like literally freezing everything and turning New York into like an ice city was cool, but that was like the only scene. And I'll admit, I'll give the movie this. I was actually shocked they did not go with some like climate change bullshit. They didn't. They actually did not go there. I'm actually shocked they didn't go there. But doesn't say the movie from being bad. Like, one, this should have happened, like, I think a little bit earlier on in the film. And there could have been a whole sequence of them in the ice. At least, I think the last maybe 30 to 40 minutes should have been them in ice. I felt like the ice sequence is only like 25 minutes, maybe. I don't even remember how, like, I can't think of how long it was. I'm gonna say it, there's too many subplots. That hurts a movie when you got too many subplots going on, because one, there's subplots that just aren't needed, Like, you could have done something with the son character. Like, even, like, because they bring back the girl from the last movie, I think her name's Lucky. Which, cool. It was cool that they brought her back. I actually did not mind her character from the last movie, even though I know, especially with, like, the colored hair and shit, the direction they could go with her character. But she doesn't really do anything in this movie. Why not do a plot with her and the older brother? Like, I don't. Damn it, movie! Like, you just do nothing with these characters. They're just there. Like, it's frustrating. You have Paul Rudd, but you just have him just want to be stepdad. I don't know if because Ant-Man 3, he was more busy with that because because he has to actually be really in those movies. So maybe that's partially why he's not in it as much. You got to remember, this movie technically was supposed to come out last year, so he probably would have been filming them about the same time. So maybe that's why, like, he was probably doing more with Ant-Man, and he probably just couldn't be in it as much. I don't know if that's the case, but even then, you still could have figured out a way to do something more with him than just want to be stepdad. But then, if you want to do that, but at least, okay, if you want to do that, have him try to interact with each of the kids, like maybe interact with the brother, and brother's not having it really. Or maybe initially, but then they have like a bro out moment. They have a moment, and then he takes Phoebe out or something with, like, he does something with each of the, like, he tries to get in the kid's good graces. Like, I think they kind of did that last movie, but you could have did that a little bit more, because now that he's going to be their dad, basically. I think they could have done something like that instead. If you're going to do the whole he wants to be a stepdad thing, instead of just like, oh, I want to be a stepdad, so I'm gonna have the one scene where I'm gonna be stern with Phoebe, and then that's kind of it. He's just driving around really. It's so bad, man. It's like, wow. Like, yes, this isn't this isn't fucking Shitbusters 2016 bad, which I was watching on shrooms and I couldn't even save that fucking movie. But that movie, just because it's not as bad as that, it's like I compare it to like, just because The Predator came out before Prey doesn't make Prey a good movie. Same thing here. This movie isn't good. I'm sorry. It just isn't. It really just shows like Ghostbusters, and you know what? Let's just put that one to bed. It's an 80s project. I think you could make, Afterlife was a good modern Ghostbusters. You did it. Let that be the last one. I think the way it ends works anyway as an ending. As much as I would love more of them, if this is what we're going to be getting, you know what? I'm good. I'm good. So where am I at, movie? So to be honest, I was very checked out, so I have to like really think about. Okay, so basically the team has to come together. This is where Phoebe realizes that brass can be used to hurt it because it mimics like the bronze it used to initially take out Baraka. I was gonna say Baraka back. But basically, this is where Camille's character, all he does is basically he has to try to fiddle with the fire. He's trying to practice with the fire. That's all he does, and they try to really make that funny too. And it just, I did not find it funny at all. That's what I mean, forced humor. Like, it was very forced with him. Like, let's do this whole gag where he can't really fuck with the fire, and that's all it is. That's the whole thing is just like, there's even a scene where the kids run in, and he's still trying to fiddle with the fire. And he can't do shit, and it's like, oh my god, get it? You can't do it. You don't have to beat it in our heads, movie. And that's the other problem. Like, the comedy's so, there are times it works, but then there are times where they beat you in the head, like with that joke. Or like constantly, Paul Rudd wanted to be a stepdad joke. Like, there's so many just. I did like the one scene where Paul Rudd actually starts singing the song. But he wasn't singing it, but he was like basically saying the lyrics. I'll admit that was funny. I found that scene funny. But like, we didn't get enough scenes like that. Like, it's just like some of the humor is too forced and just came off cringe to me. I don't know, man. It's really disappointing. Like, this movie could have been better, and it really could have. Not saying it could have been. It needed to be as good as the first. I don't think you're ever gonna. Not every movie is gonna ever be as good as the first. But at least you could still be decent. And I can't even call this a decent movie. This wasn't good. It just wasn't. What immaculate. Some, which is just some random horror, not even an IP horror. About Sydney Sweeney as a nun. Very art housey. Not even my type of movie normally. Is better. I should have liked Ghostbusters better. Like, on a different level. I love Ghostbusters. It's not like my IP like that, like some people's. But I do love the original Ghostbusters. Like, I think it was number 2. No, 3 in my 1984 list of the best of that year. So I love that movie. And, you just couldn't make a decent modern Ghostbusters. It's just, you focus too much on this bad humor. You got too many subplots where we don't really care about it. Phoebe manages to convince Melody. I'm just going to skip to the end. Phoebe convinces Melody to basically turn on Garaka while she uses the brass proton pack, because the other ones end up getting frozen because they can't. Which, it's so stupid. It doesn't make sense to me. Why is she the only one who has one? I mean, I know why, because you gotta have her come save the day, but fuck. You're telling me she could. I get it. The amount of time she maybe couldn't do a bunch, but come on. At least make two. Or fuck. Yeah, at least two. And then this is where Melody lights a match, or somehow lights one in the real world, I guess, and gives Camille the fire, and he comes in as the fire. And he's wearing this stupid armor that looks like almost like a samurai armor. And basically, the team kind of helps her hold it, which I guess they're still trying to. Oh, well, the team still helped her, but it's like it would make more sense if they all fucking had one, like in the end of the first movie, where the whole team uses the fucking proton pack to take out Gozer. It should have been something like that here. That would have been a way better moment than just Camille doing the fire and then her doing it. But they're not even the whole family's holding it. It would make more sense if they all fucking had one. Oh my god, movie. It's like the ending was okay, where it's kind of similar to the first one. They defeat the villain. Song starts playing, which okay, that was cool. And then yeah, they let fucking the boy drive the Ecto one while they chase two ghosts out. Okay, movie over. This was weak, man. Like I said, going into like how I could fix this movie, I did a little bit, but I can add more. Like for one, I would have added that if you're gonna have this whole brass thing, I'll even keep the villain, which I would personally do a different villain. But if you're gonna do it because the name Frozen Empire, fine, we're gonna keep the villain. You have it. There's a scene where Phoebe's trying to make the brass for all. Maybe she goes on her own because she's you have her get benched still, but she goes on her own and maybe even convince her or brother help her make and podcast secretly make the brass ones. I wouldn't do the whole fucking ghost buddy thing. That was stupid. That wasn't needed. I don't like the idea of fucking Casper and Ghostbusters. That's stupid. They're Ghostbusters, and not supposed to be fucking friends with ghosts. Or even lesbian, whatever you want to call it. Like, either or. It just shouldn't be that way. That makes no sense in a Ghostbusters movie. So yeah, she just secretly works, and they all have one. You add try to make, I don't know, maybe try to convince Bill Murray to actually fucking give a shit. And actually put on a better performance. Like I said, there was a one scene with Camille where he basically convinces him to, somehow shocks him into basically doing the fire when he first realizes he could do it. That was like the only scene where I somewhat felt Venkman in it. And I was even somewhat still. Bill Murray should have tried more. Because I felt like in fucking 5 years ago, he gave a shit. And that was only in a little bit. And he was in it probably just as much. I mean, I think he was maybe in this one a little bit more than he was in the last one. But not by much, really. So why not just try to maybe give him more money? Like, hey, Bill, can you actually try in this one? Have some chemistry with your team? I wouldn't have had Walter Peck. Okay, if you're going to have him, I'd only had one scene of him. And maybe actually have a different, maybe he's like, you know what, guys, I actually like you guys now. Like, you guys saved my time. To have it be like, yeah, he, after the events of do something genuine with him. It's so stupid you brought him back just to be the same fucking character. It doesn't make sense. Like, you're telling me in fucking 40 years, he's still the same guy. He just wants to take down the ghost. But, bro, like, that's stupid. Yeah, so, do more with the family. Like, actually, if you're going to have this idea of a family of Ghostbusters, you do more with the family. Have more scenes with the family in general. But that's all. It's what I would have done to somewhat try to fix this movie. I just think, because I think this movie could have worked. They didn't really make it work. And that's the other thing. I would tone down like the force humor. I would have cut Pat. I didn't even mention Pat Oswalt. Fucking didn't. He's not even in that. That just shows you he didn't need to be in the movie either. And it's not just because I don't like the fucker. Because I don't like the fucker. No, it's not just that. He didn't need to be in the movie really. I don't even remember why he was there. I guess he's kind of was an expert on the orb. I think that's why he was there. But you didn't need him. There could have been, maybe they found some shit on the internet, dude. Fuck it. 2024 or 2023, I guess would have technically the year I'm assuming would have been. They should have just had it be they found it on the internet. They didn't need, or video, that's kind of Ghostbusters. You didn't need Patton Oswalt in the movie. The fact that I kind of forgot he was in the movie and didn't even mention him, and it wasn't on purpose. This wasn't just because, I don't like Patton Oswalt, so I'm not going to mention him. No, I just kind of didn't think because he wasn't that integral to the plot. So, anyway, guys, yeah, this movie was just weak, man. It's sad. So yeah, just let's just put a rest to Ghostbusters. You know, I know there's other franchises I've like put to rest, but this one definitely. I don't think there's really any more you could tell. Maybe if you want to do video games here and there, because video games, we as fans can always just like if the game is bad, we can just it's easier to just not count that as canon, versus movies, which you could in your head say it's not canon, but technically it is. It's still canon. Games, they could say it's canon, but there's always that separation because it's not live action. Same with cartoons to an extent that you can kind of just nix it. Like Jurassic World, there's Jurassic Park. There's that Camp Cretaceous show. I don't even count it as canon. It's not good. It has some of the dino designs are good, but it's so kiddie. It's like it's like Netflix. You have a Jurassic Park. I know it's a side rant, but yeah. Anyway, same thing here. Like it's easier for me. Like at least if they did a video games and the video game isn't good, I could just not look at it as canon in my head. It's easier. But no more movies. I just don't really see there's more to tell. I just don't know if their heart's not into it because it could partially be because just Harold Ramis isn't around. And that just kind of shows Harold Ramis was this franchise. And maybe in that sense, too, just put it to rest because there's just no Ghostbusters without Harold Ramis. We've tried it twice. Afterlife somewhat still worked because he did have the ghost of him there. This one, I think, partially doesn't work because just that comedy element because he helped write the movies too. So it doesn't work here. But anyway, guys, I'm gonna call it here. Later tonight, I'm gonna review Freaky. I was so disappointed by that. It was the same thing. It's Blumhouse, man. They have good concepts, but they just don't do anything with it. The whole premise of didn't work for me because you got this main girl, Catherine, or no, Catherine is the actress. I remember her from Supernatural, but I know she's like Ant-Man's daughter. She's like I've noticed she's in like a lot more movies now. But she was the Millie, I think is the main character's name. She is this like regular high school girl, but they try to force to tell you she's this outcast. It's not believable. I'm sorry. They don't really do a good job of making it look like she's an outcast. It's like, and then a lot of the characters are so, besides her friends maybe, are so over the top, and I guess her family are so over the top assholes. Like you got this teacher who's basically just shits on Millie, who's just constantly targeting her. It's like it's not even like you're telling me a teacher like that he's not even hiding it. He like would blatantly in front of people do this shit. It's so bad, like in that, like that's when it's just painful to watch. Like I'm okay with asshole characters, but you gotta make it like not unbearable. Where it's just like, can you just die right now? And it was funny, like where they switched and Vince Vaughn, who was the serial killer, something the butcher. I don't remember the name. I'll probably remember it later. But not if I do this video, it'll probably be way later in the evening. I'm gonna say, but we'll see. But like the scenes where he's basically playing Millie, I thought that was funny, but they didn't really take advantage of when Millie, the killers, and I don't want to say it like that, but the killers witch killers as Millie. They don't take advantage of that. Like, how much good kill sequences you can get because a teenage girl is unsuspecting. So they did that. Like, there's like one scene where, two, where you get kind of that, but they don't take advantage of it. The humor a lot of the time is unfunny. There's some good kills, and it really didn't help that one of the opening lines is like talking about like how like straight white males are violent. It's just like, god damn, movie. Like, and it's not like in a joke, or you don't have like a character at least counter it. Like when you just have lines like that's when it's like, okay, I don't mind lines like that if you're gonna have a character counter at least, so you can at least appear to be like neutral. But when you just write shit like that and no one says anything at all, we just have to. It's just there. It's stupid. You get some cool kills. I guess the girl says it gets killed, so I guess that. I don't know. They didn't really explore it. And I like Freaky Friday. Horror Freaky Friday could have worked, and they just didn't really take advantage of it. I did like the scenes where it would go from like Friday the third, because you're getting to Friday the 13th, so it starts like Thursday the 11th. No, it was like something the 11th, Thursday the 12th, and then yeah, so it was like Wednesday the 11th, and they did it kind of in the font of Friday the 13th, basically logo. And yeah, it has moments, but they really don't explore it. So I'm gonna talk about that later, but I'll figure out what I'm gonna do tomorrow. Maybe I'll see if I can find a Screen Rant article to talk about. But yeah, all right, guys, I'm gonna call it here. Yeah, Ghostbusters was not good, man. I wanted to like it, but I just couldn't. But all right, I gotta talk to y'all tomorrow. Talk to y'all later. Peace.